start, and then we'll go around the table and then check with the folks on Zoom. So my name is George Tolumpsis. I'm the vice chair of this committee. I'm the planning board rep to this committee, and per the direction of the chair, I facilitate the meetings.
I'm Philip Elmer, the Lame Duck Council member, representative on the committee. I could talk at length about the Highland Pond discussion you guys had last month, but I'm going to pass for now.
For now. I'm Hannah Reckshoppen, chair and member at large.
I'm Amy Kaling, Community and Economic Development Director for Greenfield.
Mary Chicklin, public member.
Nancy Hazard, public.
Eric Torg, Director of Planning and Development.
And Jonah? Sorry, you're chewing it.
Jonah Dean, public member.
Thank you. And we have a guest, Ken Byrne, I see.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Byrne.
Nice to meet you. Just Ken is good. I'm representing the Conway School, and CJ Lammers, who's out of town today, asked me if I would sit in the meeting.
Excellent. And we will get to that item pretty quickly. So the next item is the approval of the September meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I will move that we approve them as filed.
Is there okay, discussion. One thing I wanted to offer is that at the start of the minutes, just because these are public minutes, and I wanted to suggest they be a bit more formalized so that full names are given and the roles, so it's clear who is a committee member and who is not.
Sure.
And what their, affiliation is.
I have that as a cut and paste. I'll send it to you, Mary.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could just be so easy. Couple of typos, just midway down the first page. Eric will clarify cost to the city, I think was meant.
Could I ask for a clarification? Since I didn't take the notes, who is, you're making this version?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Can you send me that also your
Yeah.
list? Sorry, George, you
yes.
just said halfway down the word cost.
On the first page, Eric will clarify cost to the city, I think was what was meant by that. It just was word left out. I know it's hard to do these
Oh,
things
yes,
in real
yes.
time. And more significantly is at the end of that item on the second page, about 2/3 of the way down, Nancy made a motion. It was Jonah seconded it. We need to record a vote.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just below that, it's new hire for CC position. I think we all know what that means. I just wanted, again, suggest specifying Carol's name.
Oh, yes.
Her role.
Thank you.
The third page, when it says new mayor could address this, I thought it would be more politic to say if there's a new mayor, they could address it.
Yeah.
Since we do have an incumbent running. And lastly, it's a little silly, but at the very end, we should indicate there was a vote to adjourn. That's it from me. So with those adjustments, if there's no objection to those, all in favor of approving the minutes? And Mary, you?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, thank you very much. So 6 votes, yes, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Okay, so we're on to the Conway School Student Project Update. Eric.
Great, I'll start off with that. So I did talk to the mayor and clarified cost, which is great. She can put in $15,000 from unrestricted funds for the project. CJ indicated that they got a small loan from Greenfield Savings Bank. They're community type of loans they give out, and that would cover most of the other costs. So we're good to go money-wise, and the mayor gave her okay to move forward with the project to update the land use and natural resource, historic and cultural resources chapters of the master plan.
How big would the loan have to be?
It's a $26,000 cost
Oh, the
in
total?
total.
Thank you.
And we're gonna have 15,000, and the Greenfield Savings Bank loan or grant or whatever they're calling it will cover, I think, the rest.
Grant. It'll be a grant, not a
Grant.
loan.
Yep,
Grant.
that's what I thought.
Thank you.
Grant, yep, thank you. Clarifying that.
Wonderful.
Could you say again how much this Greenfield Savings Bank piece is?
I don't know the exact amount,
The rest.
but she said that they would cover the rest.
Thank you.
And what CJ wanted me to ask about the group before we get to Ken, is we need to think about a core group from this committee of 3 to 5 people. I personally would recommend a lesser amount, 3 people, because coordination is hard to herd. It's like herding cats trying to get, it's very difficult. So that's just my opinion on that. Maybe we should go to 3 and not 5, so it'd be easy for coordination efforts. So 3 people from this committee as the core group to work with the students.
Great.
And I'd be happy to be one of those since I'll be doing the kind of the administration paying and, you know, I'm the planning director, so that makes sense for me to do it. I volunteer if the group would, you know, approve that.
I'd love to do.
And I'd love to do.
Hey,
I think.
Not me, not me.
all right. That was easy.
So he's a lame duck.
That's easy.
You need a shirt.
He's gonna be elected to the committee soon,
I don't know about,
appointed.
I don't know about that.
You
Was
don't know
that-
about that.
No.
Was that Mary and Nancy?
Mary and Nancy?
Jonah, do you want to be on this? That is your area of expertise.
I mean, we can make it 5. That was just a suggestion. We could
You all
make it 5.
jumped in so quickly. I was like, well, I don't know, but I'm happy to be involved. Yes.
Yes,
You have
make
the
it 4.
expertise,
That's
I just
wonderful.
have the curiosity.
Yeah, 4 is fine. So that's great.
Great.
So we have our 4 core group.
Nice.
And the other, CJ wanted to, well, Ken is here to kind of get an idea about what we've done to date and get more direction for the scope of work that they'll be doing. So I'll turn it over to Ken.
Yeah, so I thank you for the progress in downtown Greenfield report. Often when we do updates, the hardest thing for us to do is find out what happened since the last report. Different people change jobs, retire, move on, and it looks like you folks have been documenting and tracking everything, and impressive progress that you've made since 2014. So I really appreciate that. We may need to get into a little bit more details. So that would be something the core team could maybe help us, if not identify the actual details of what's been done since 2014 beyond the documentation that we have already, but to direct us to who we should talk to, who the students should talk to, because I'm faculty and administration at the school and we don't get in between the students and the clients. But just letting us know who the students should talk to follow up if there's some more detailed updates on any of these aspects of it. So that would be really helpful. I love to go into, as a faculty member, to go into a community where the project's already up and running. People know what they want. They have very clear questions. They've done the hard work of getting the thing off the ground. It just hitting the ground running is wonderful. We do a lot of projects also where they're just at the beginning stage and they don't really know what they are doing or what they want or what the vision is, which is also a fun thing, but it's a whole other level to be involved in a community that's already active. And it sounds like you guys are, so I appreciate that. One thing that the core team also, our process is so truncated, 12 weeks, we go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. And one of the things that is challenging is getting the feedback on rough drafts pretty near the end of the term. So if we're talking about a 12-week project, maybe by week 9 or 10, clients are giving feedback on draft recommendations. Students are drafting the document with all of its maps and other graphics and asking for feedback. Maybe the last feedback that the client can give is like a week before the end of the term, which means things have to be turned around like within 3 days. So that's where the core team, if they can come in and say, okay, we're going to have other people look at this too, but we're not going to subject the student team to 12 people all giving conflicting comments about the document. If the core team could say, we got the comments from 12 people, we've looked at them and think the priority are these ones. Where there's a disagreement, we're kind of like ruling on what the disagreement resolution should be to try to get that project through that the last hurdle, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Totally.
Hannah?
Thank you. Ken, can you give us just a couple quick dates around
Sure.
12 weeks?
Sure. And I think CJ may have shared the milestones for clients.
Okay.
Yes,
I
you
have,
did.
okay, so I actually only have in front of me the milestones for students, but at least it has some of those key dates. Am I allowed to share screen? It looks like I can.
Give it a try, and if you can't, I'll try to.
Disabled. I'm
That
disabled from
document
screen sharing.
The
Okay.
document about milestones, did you share that with all of us or?
That's
That
what
was-
we were talking about. I'm so sorry.
The milestone. I thought no, maybe I didn't.
It was just an email, a thread with the three of us.
Okay.
So that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Got it.
So-
And there's
I'll find it now.
Okay,
There's
try now, Ken, you should be able to.
And there's
I
a
got
draft
it.
contract.
Okay, great.
as well. So-
Okay, I
All right,
totally.
can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right, so this is an important thing here at the top is subject to change because we've got 6 winter projects with 18 students. So each team is 3 students, some who have various degrees of experience and knowledge of the fields, and some who are coming in with a good heart, but they may not have all the details down yet. So we go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. Our first day, oh, that's spring term. Oh man,
was
that's
gonna
the
say,
wrong
yeah.
one. Hang on, I will have to go searching.
I saw January 3rd on this one.
I know that
With the
was
students.
not the right one. Hold on. I've been in enough Zoom meetings that I realized that was just a fatal error. Okay. All right, how's that?
That looks great.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, that's a little bit better. January 3, first day. The next week, they'll meet with the client team. We get the students, although we have a preliminary scope already pretty close to being signed. I know, Eric, you sent that today. So that's ready for our signatures and send it back over to you. The students will also do what we now call a memorandum of understanding after they've interviewed and talked to the core team, just to clarify the details in a little bit more depth so they understand what's going on. That goes through faculty and then back to them. We have roughly around this point here, early February, these are milestones, they're not really deadlines. So somewhere around there, there'll be a first community or stakeholder meeting or of some sort that they will work out with the core team what makes the most sense for this project. Sometimes it's multiple smaller meetings, sometimes it's one big meeting. So that is to be determined. And then by almost the end of February, the students are already have gotten all the analyses done. They've generated some very preliminary draft recommendations, so they can then present that back to the community or the stakeholders or the focus groups to get feedback on those recommendations. They start drafting by March 16th, the draft's sent to client for final review. That's that tight turnaround time. And again, these are milestones. This is what we're aiming for based on experience to get the projects done on time. And then the students incorporate comments into the draft. Our last day of winter term is March 22, but we know from experience that when the students come back and start the spring term, there will be things to clean up, final edits, final revisions, design the cover, send it to a printer. We do an external printer, a Lulu, and it sometimes takes a while for that to get mailed back. So we set the deadline for April 26th for you to actually receive the final documents, though we can make the PDFs or Word documents or whatever format digitally available as soon as the students finish it, which would probably be a couple of weeks before that actual delivery of the physical document. So does that help?
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Much.
Very much. Yep.
And Eric, if you have the one that's designed for clients already, is that right? I don't need to resend that.
We have that list there that you had, the milestones.
Well, those were the milestones that we give the students, so that's our internal one. And then I think
This is the one
CJ adapts it
that you
into
sent.
milestones for the
It's for clients.
clients.
Yes, yes.
You
yes.
got that? Okay. I don't
We
need to
have that.
resend it.
Sure,
Terrific.
all set.
Okay. Terrific. Any other, anything else I can say other than express my thanks for willing to participate in this grand experiment of education and growth for our students? And we're only doing two of the many chapters, the updates, but they're ones that are particularly suited to our curriculum and pedagogy, the land use and the natural and cultural. Yes, Nancy?
How many students will be working on this project?
3. However,
Okay.
we often think that 18 work on them because the students give weekly presentations and get feedback from faculty, visitors, and the other students. So it's really 3, though. There are three names on the author side, but they get a lot of response from faculty. It goes through a full vetting process and review process, multiple drafts and revisions before it goes out.
I'll call myself. I just wanted to check, Eric, you had sent, there was a draft from the Conway School. There was a draft contract about this. And I just wondered who finalizes that?
Yeah, I'll give you an update on that. So CJ was asking, do we use theirs or do we have a standard contract? I sent it to our chief procurement officer. She reviewed their contract, was okay with the language, tweaked it, just a couple of minor tweaks. And it's all set for signatures. We sent it off to the Conway School for signatures, and then the mayor will sign it and we're good to go. So the contract agreement is in order and being signed.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.
And
Yes, ma'am.
question, I didn't hear anything about public presentations. Is there not a presentation for the group?
So the 2 community engagement, we call them now just community engagement. That's where, depending on what the project's about and what they work out with the different core teams, they will be a full-scale community meeting. There'll be a series of smaller meetings. We started doing this with COVID, obviously, because we couldn't do the full-scale big meetings, and realized actually having some flexibility about how that's defined is good depending on the project. It could be that in some projects you're working with a focus group from the DPW and a focus group from the school parent committee and a focus group of the elementary students, and that's a better model for some projects.
Hannah.
With the public meetings or community and stakeholder meetings, do the students take care of organizing and marketing those meetings? Do they?
Well, no, we ask the core team to help with the advertising. The students will design the event in consultation with the core team and with faculty. So they'll design the events, and maybe even practice them at school to get some sense of how they'll be run. But we do ask, that's just something that's difficult for outsiders to do, is to figure out who should we send the notice to, how should that happen? So that would be something we would get on the calendar pretty early at that first meeting, like in the second week of the term. We would want to identify some dates.
It'd be a good opportunity for the SGIC to reboot our public meeting.
So the scope of work, I assume, is that written out in the contract that you're working on, Eric?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. And I can send the contract agreement out to the group if they're interested.
I'd love to see it. Thank you.
And is that a done deal, or is there opportunity to further refine? Because I know that we talked about a concentration on climate change, and I know that wasn't something that was in the last.
Let me ask Ken that question. Is there room, flexibility now to have the core group look at that, or this entire group? And
I think if it was just to put in and a focus on climate change, that wouldn't be a problem. We could do that pretty easily, and I think that would be something we would be very much in support of. But no, it wouldn't be a challenge to add that. But if it goes through 3 or 4 weeks of committee revisions, that might slow us up.
no, I think that would be quick. I'll send it out to the group, get comments within a couple of days, and then if there's significant changes or any changes, we'll do it and send it as quickly as possible.
Terrific.
Great.
I just wanted to give you, Ken, a little bit of background to this process, thinking of the public involvement. This process started in 2012, and actually some of us here were on the advisory committee at that time, and there was a lot of public participation throughout the process up till the 2014 finalization. And subsequently, this group has hosted a number of events to try to keep this plan alive and engage the public. So there's been a nice history over the last decade of public participation and involvement and awareness around this plan. So
That's great. That's really exciting. Yeah. As
Yeah,
I said
yeah.
before, we love to go into a situation where there's a lot of work already done, and we just are, people have identified, you can help us by doing this. That's very helpful for us as well. So,
yes.
Yeah, I was to add to that is, for speaking for myself, I'm really excited about the opportunity of having this so that we have an excuse to do some more public
Yeah.
outreach. It's very timely because things, came to a halt because of COVID. We're still suffering from that.
sure.
And so this gives us a focus and a reason for doing that. And it fits in with some of the things that other groups are doing. I actually haven't seen the scope of work yet, but I'm hoping that it will fit in with that.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Any
And
other? Oh, go ahead, Kim.
I have one last thing. CJ wanted me to let everyone know that on Saturday, October 28th at 7 p.m., Seth Gleer is at Hawks and Reed. His new album, Everything, is about climate change, and he's Conway School would be at the tabling at the event as so we'll get to introduce him, and it allows him to introduce Conway School to people as well. So
What's the date? Can you say that
this
again?
Saturday, the 28th, tickets are $20 to $25. Get them now.
Very cool.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right. And well, thank you very much for being here. And
Thank you,
Here.
and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciated that you were able to do this on Zoom. My car broke down, so I was scrambling to figure out how to get there tonight. So I appreciate the Zoom.
Yeah.
All right, I will leave you to the rest of your business. Thank you very much again, and we'll be in touch soon.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Again.
Next agenda item is.
Oh, it's all Jonah now.
I'm huge, huh? Yeah.
The next item is the anti-idling update, and unfortunately, this report I have is hot off the presses. Sorry it was so late. Does anyone need a hard copy?
I haven't seen one, but I'm familiar with the anti-idling thingy.
Yeah. Dang.
All right.
Oh, you've seen it. You've got it.
That's okay. I can leave it there. That's good.
Your electronic.
So I don't know if people had a chance to read it, just framing where this comes from in the master plan specifically, that last August. 22. Yes, time does fly. It was agreed by this committee to go forward, and so I was using the Department of Environmental Protection idling reduction toolkit and as a guide. And after identifying a coordinator, it sounds like the STIC is willing to take on that role. The question would be how to proceed. And the next step is create partnerships. And basically, as you'll see from the bullet points down near the bottom, they suggest broad partnerships. And then the third bullet suggests narrow goals. So the next step would be to try to look into partnerships. As I noted in, I was surprised to find, because I knew the police could enforce the anti-idling law. I didn't know boards of health.
Yeah, that was new to me.
Yeah, and also I was struck that there is something so specific about schools. From my observations, the middle of the next three steps is identifying sources of idling. I mean, I see so much queuing up and idling at schools, at school pickup. And there are very specific guidelines in the regs about schools in particular. So it seemed like it would make sense to start reaching out and, kind of touching on this issue, as I put in the bottom paragraph, to find out, what are existing efforts going on, and to get a feel for interest, pursuing additional goals or activities. And I wanted to check on getting the committee's okay to proceed on the committee's behalf, and also suggestions of where to start. It seems like the Board of Health could be a good place, as could the school committee.
Seems like the police are sort of key. If you can get the schools to report idling, but you need the police to enforce it, don't you?
Well, as this says, boards of health can also enforce it.
Okay.
And oh, good, sorry.
Because the police have more staff than the Board of Health.
Yes, a lot more staff.
So what I'm thinking is, if the police were presented with our interest in pursuing this, and we got some of these other people, the school, the parent-teacher organizations, to agree to be part of it, and then sort of everybody agrees, okay, we're going to keep an eye on it, we're going to report it, and we're going to send it up to the police. That might be
We
probably.
want more, I don't know if the schools want more police
Yeah.
present, but I will say, Four Rivers, every time I go, they have all these colorful student-made signs about idling, like it's clearly very important to their community, so I wonder if there's student advocates there that could like speak to how they've made it a part of their school community, and I don't know if it's like tied to a club. I know the high school, I think, used to have like an environmental club, but I think that might have, during COVID disbanded, but I think if we could get some sort of like grassroots, like get students involved in it and parents before we, I would say, bring.
I love that idea.
Yeah, but
I agree.
I kind of agree with Phil that the number one key entity in this whole thing to make it so it's even worthwhile even thinking about is the police department. Without them enforcing it, it's all a waste of time.
The trouble is, I say from decades of experience, is it's very hard to enforce.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
you have to wait 5 minutes to see someone who've done this for
Yeah.
5 minutes, and they have to witness it. And so I've been down in Northampton, bike down there, I'm having my bagel or whatever, and I notice the car is running and an officer walks by, and I'll mention it, and he's not gonna stand around for 5 minutes to check if this
Time.
person, right?
Yeah.
And I go back to the other aspect of the master plan item, which was increased public awareness. I think this is the kind of
Yeah.
thing where self-policing is really important, because I have talked to so many people asking us if they were stopped, mentioning this 5 minutes, and I have no one who's ever been aware of that law.
No.
And some people, when they're aware of law, will just say, oh, I didn't know, I'll adhere to that, so.
I've had the opposite experience.
I think that's what is nice about what Greta is saying, is because you're appealing to people from the kids' perspective.
Yep.
And climate is such a sort of hot button thing right now that the education might do something. And then if it continues to be a problem, or if for some reason it's turning into something where people are being like belligerent about it or something like that, certainly bringing the police in, but I'm not sure right from the start that they would have much to even say. I mean, I think they might say, well, what have you tried before you're coming to us to kind of enforce something that's hard to
Yeah.
What
enforce?
about like a marketing, could we get kids involved in some sort
Yeah.
of marketing campaign? Like, would there be a budget for that, or like for getting stuff printed, or even social media, like, increasing awareness?
I love the idea of like
Kids' signs.
signs.
I am a parent and former idler at school pickup in Northampton, and the thing that
Maybe I better
got me
write
to
that down.
stop- The thing that got me to stop were signs.
Say again, please.
The thing that got me to stop were signs.
Signs, yeah.
It's very hard to sit in the face of a sign that says no idling, particularly one that's made by a kid and continue to idle and not feel like a complete,
I got Nancy and Phil in the queue. I just wanted to pick, which school was it that has the
Four Corners?
Four Rivers Charter School.
Four Rivers,
Yeah,
sorry.
we should go, drive around the loop and have all sorts of signs up that, it's very clear messaging.
Thanks.
Do people actually not idle?
It's a great question. I mean.
Is it effective?
Are we not all
Yeah.
guilty of it?
It's a good question.
I know.
No,
It's tough in the seat, when it's really hot or really cold, like, I don't know if there's tips you can give people. It's like, if you're waiting in your car, it's, gonna be like 100 degrees in there within a minute, or with winter free, I don't know if there's ways to, I don't know.
I'll just answer that question. In the regs,
Seasonally hard.
in the regs for schools, there are very specific guidelines about you can turn on for a minute within 15 minutes or something like that. It's really specific guidelines that when it's extremely hot or extremely cold.
What do people do in the pickup? Has this been a thing that?
Yeah. The kids are homeschooled.
I know they're aware. I mean, I talked to the transportation director, coordinator, and they're, transportation department, school department is definitely aware of this and practicing this
And there's no reason every kid has to be picked up right in front of the door. They can walk to the park. But Nancy, you didn't have that.
Parking, that would be good to have.
Yeah, I love the idea of getting the kids involved in doing it. Green and Greenfield, and specifically Carol Letson had led an effort maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, I don't know, time passes. And we did what she did, or what we did at that time is we made little piece of paper that we could put under people's windshield, that sort of thing, to help people be aware of the fact that this is a law. And we did get the typical, I don't know if they're still up, but there were the anti-idling signs that were posted at the schools. We did focus on the schools, but we did not get the kids involved in. I think that is critical to being successful. And also, as you pointed out, the times are different. The kids care about the climate change. They understand about the climate change. And I think that's the only way I think that it can move forward.
I'll get to Jonah after Phil.
Yeah, I had a very similar idea. If the kids went down the line of cars with pieces of paper and wrote down the time and said, you've got 5 minutes from this. They might have fun doing it, and it would, anyway, that's my idea.
Never mind.
Yeah, Jonah and then Eric.
I really like the student ideas. I personally really like the climate angle of this, which I think should be included. I think the human health angle should probably be emphasized, which is, I think, is more broadly understood. That people would feel more guilt about harming kids. Everyone would feel that guilt regardless of your thoughts on anything else. And just one other thought, I had this vague recollection when this came up originally that there was some talk about how much police officers themselves idle.
Totally.
I just wonder if there's another like a complementary angle that is like, what can we do from the city side? Like, hey, look, our police and DPW and our city vehicles we're making an effort to cut down on it. You too can make a difference, public, something like that.
I'll just say there are, as I alluded to, there's 3 exceptions. And one is if it's needed to run ancillary equipment or something like that. And I think when I have talked with police officers in the past, that has been part of the issue. They need to keep their computers in the car running or something like that. So they have, in other words, like when cars are being repaired, you have to run it to test it or something like that. But I think that might be for some, but I totally know what you mean. There's examples. I've talked to FRTA drivers and they turn it off when I bring it up because they're doing it and they're not supposed to. And there's in the regs for the schools, there's guidance specifically, there's training for bus drivers about them adhering to it. So it's pretty wide ranging where you could touch on it. Like you say, it could be modeling, the behavior or something like that. Eric,
Just a couple questions. So Nancy, are you saying that the schools already have signage?
They did have signage. Is it still there? I don't know. And it was not wonderful kid-made signage. It was the signage that the DP or whoever the
DPW put up?
The DP would probably put it up, but it was designed and manufactured by the state DEP, I believe.
Okay.
So it was a metal, typical official looking metal. boring metal sign.
In this report, I included that they're required to, schools are required to erect and maintain no idling permanent signage and shall be sized in the font such a distance of 50 feet. You can see it at the middle school, which I live very near. There, it's about 10 or 12 feet up, weathered, you can barely read it, and it's about like this big. So even if someone's would be amenable to being influenced by that information, it's not.
That's what I would guess.
Guidelines, so.
Okay, so that was the first question on signage, so it should be there and it is, but some of it seems like needs to be redone. Does anybody ever like figure it out? I mean, are the schools the number one perpetrators of idling? The people waiting to pick up and drop off students? Is that the number one issue?
Well, like I say, one of the next steps would be identify sources of idling.
Yeah.
I think that's one that's kind of easily noticeable.
Yeah.
I don't know its percentage. I mean, I avoid drive-throughs, but one time when I was taking a client who couldn't, for whatever reason, I think it was a COVID-related thing, couldn't get out of the vehicle, I went to a drive-through with them. We sat, not moving, for at least 5 minutes. It was it was ridiculous. And I see so much idling in drive-throughs, though people are probably moving before 5 minutes are up. So technically, they're not sitting still. But I think schools, there's certainly a lot of that happens. And it has the intergenerational aspect to it of, it's an educational institution. It's a good opportunity for educating. Kids are getting increasingly, focused on climate change. So it seems like a kind of a nice leveraged opportunity. So, but Mary, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking about city vehicles, and then also what I observe a lot, including just today down the street from me, is Berkshire Gas vehicles running for hours on end. It's insanity. I mean, it's already insane that they come out to check gas leaks and leave their vehicle running, in my opinion. But so there's that, and then there's contractor vehicles who are doing work on behalf of the city. So I think it's a bigger umbrella than just the city vehicles themselves. So I don't know if anti-idling could be part. I'm always trying to get things into city contracts like anti-idling, like tree protection zones, things like that, if that could be part of this initiative.
I think it was handed in.
Yep.
Well, Eric, did you want to respond to what Mary was saying? Because
I believe the contracts that my brother puts out do state anti-idling in them for all the stuff he does.
Well, that's good to know.
Because he mentioned that to me, so I believe it's already in there.
And
But
So
see,
we
I'm
just
used to
need to
doing
enforce it.
project oriented, so when I made the comment that, the cops should be involved, and Phil mentioned that, it's these contractors that are out there, like J.S. Ray and the ones that Mary mentioned and others, that unless a police officer goes there and enforces it and puts the stick on them, they're just gonna keep idling. The student idea is great, and that's gonna help out intergenerational stuff, and it'll pressure the parents to, not idle, and that's a great thing. Let's proceed with that. But the other aspect is, how do we deal with actually enforcing entities that need to be enforced?
Jonah. Oh,
Wait,
Anna,
sorry, yeah.
Jonah, sorry.
I was just wondering, and I feel like people in this room might know this, because I feel like I get pushback sometimes from people who like to say that it is more harmful to turn your car off and start it again. Does anyone have good talking points around that?
I've just noticed that most cars, because most modern cars, the engine stops when the car stops. My Prius does.
Oh, with like a hybrid or something?
Not even a hybrid, not a regular car now, because I rented a
Oh.
car.
Part of the
my car's going.
manufacturing
Yep.
requirement.
Exactly.
That's a good talking point, okay.
In this toolkit, it's mentioned about when I wear out my starter, if I keep stopping and starting, they address that. And I know I've heard click and clack radio car guys, and
Yeah.
they have said, as long as
Listen.
if you're gonna have it off for more than a minute or something like that, it doesn't cause harm or something like that. It's
Okay.
beneficial. So, yeah, so.
So
that is-
worse to idle longer than 5 minutes than to turn the car off and on again, even maybe more than once. Like if you're waiting to pick up your kid, for instance, and you turn your car off and then the line starts, I don't know how it works really. And then the line starts moving, and then is it still better to just turn it off and turn it on again?
I think that's the idea, is that the
Okay.
idea that you shouldn't, you should keep it running continuously. How many of us have seen cars, especially with remote access now?
Yeah.
I see people in stores, their cars are running in a moderate day. I see this
Really?
all the time, yes. Because you don't have the theft risk when you have the,
But I would also say a lot of people have pets, and if it's really hot or really cold, I have my bunny in the car and I worry about it.
Your bunny?
I'm talking about moderate days.
No pets.
It's just,
You know,
it's
'cause
becoming.
I've seen people try to break into people's cars if their pet is in the car and it's a hot day and it's been more than like a minute, so
Yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
playing
yeah.
devil's advocate, but.
No, they're definitely,
And
It seems
these-
like right now, it's
Yeah.
not shop parking lot.
These are some of the reactions people are gonna have, or I have a kid, that's
Yeah.
there, or I have an elderly person who's sensitive to heat. or cold or
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
And I think we're trying to just raise the bar overall.
Mm-hmm.
Who is next? Jonah, please.
Yeah, two quick things. One, I do like Eric's point of involving the police with non-families. Like
Yeah.
families sitting in the car, I think an educational campaign with signs is the way to go. But if we're looking at contractors, folks
Yeah.
sitting, for extended periods, and that example of a car with nobody, no pet, no child in it running, that would be a great role for the cops to be like, this is not right. So that's point number one. Point number two, another location where I notice it a lot is at parks. Like by Beacon Field here where I am, people pull in. I don't know why. I see it where I work too at Wildlife Sanctuary. People pull into the parking lot and just hang out with their car on. I have like they're enjoying nature, I think, in some way, but their cars running. That's just another place for some signs. I think that could be good.
It's a great place.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's,
Or we train some birds to.
well, this obviously generates a lot of interest and thoughts. I guess to wrap it up, I wondered if certainly the schools sound like the schools and police sound like two places to consult with. So I'd be happy if the committee is okay with it, with approaching. I guess it would be through the school committee rather than going to a particular school. Would that make the most sense, do you think? Or okay. I wouldn't want to go around, or because if you go to the school committee, the superintendent would be there as well. So
Yeah.
at the school committee.
And to find out about some clubs, the school committee might know more overarchingly which schools have clubs and which ones maybe don't.
Yeah.
Plus, superintendent down, from the top up, it'd be good to have them involved,
Yeah.
Right, I wouldn't want to be
Every
going sideways to a
Yeah.
particular school or principal or something like
Yeah.
that, and
Have
then.
them called. the school
Especially,
Yeah, and then,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And I love the idea of parks and wildlife. I feel like I don't see a lot of signage there.
Yeah, no, I go to Beacon Field too, and we go there to eat lunch, but we turn the car off every time. But there's cars right next to us they're sitting there for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Even today, there was a car there for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
People on their phone.
the signage there should be definitely added.
Yeah.
Can we move on?
Yep, Mary?
I have a comment, which is, it sounds like we're talking about a lot of signs, and I think without a real way to enforce the signs, I would prefer not to see more signs in our environment unless there's an enforcement plan to go along with it. So,
Well, why don't I approach the schools via the school committee and touch base with the police and find out, and I'll report back.
Sounds good.
sounds good.
And I just want to mention the rationale for the law, which has been on the books for quite a while, is about air pollution. It's not specifically about climate change. Obviously, it dovetails with that issue, which has become more, but it's been on the books longer than when the climate change issue has been. So I just want to mention that, just from accuracy point of view. Okay, thank you very much. And the next agenda item is the letter, Greenfield Tree Committee support letter. Bill?
Yeah, we can do this in less than 10 minutes if I don't have to
Oh,
read it.
famous letter.
I don't have to read it. This was something that Mary mentioned that they would like our committee to support. I had no hand in writing this. My wife wrote it, which is I think why it came to me to read it, but
And she's on the tree
On the
committee.
tree
Let's just say why she wrote it.
do you want me to read it or,
I don't think
okay, then I will read it.
Or
It's
have
to
I
Julie-
seen it? I don't
it's to
know.
Julie Coop, Urban and Community Forest Coordinator. They're asking for money from them to upgrade their little tree nursery. And here's how it goes. Dear Julie, we wish, and this is signed by Hannah, representing.
Or it will be
Yeah.
when approved.
We
And when
wish to
approved.
enthusiastically support the Greenfield Tree Committee's application for upgrades to their existing public tree nursery. The Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee is dedicated to principles and practices of sustainability, certainly increasing pubic tree planting.
Oh dear,
Pardon that.
I can't sign that.
Public tree. Tree planting throughout the city is a key effort toward that end. We applaud the tree committee's development of their own nursery through prior grants. Improvements in their new facility will directly help achieve goals of our committee. The SGIC is pledged to the Sustainable Greenfield Master Plan, which has a number of tree-related goals. One goal is to, quote, develop a green infrastructure program that includes planting and maintaining trees to reduce heat island effects of paved surfaces and to improve walkability and aesthetics of our developed areas. Another goal is to achieve 40% canopy cover by planting and supporting healthy trees. Creating a systemic, more robust system for tracking trees from grow bag to final planting location will improve the tree committee's tree growing success rate and ensure that this advantageous supply will be sustained over the long term by future volunteers. In addition, the grant would fund adopting best practices for tree growing, which would also improve success rates in the nursery and their final city location. The Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee is eager to support the Greenfield Tree Committee's application. We are jointly committed to taking steps in our community that are sustainable and healthy. This grant will help us achieve the goals of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee. I think it's a fine letter.
Thank you.
And
Yes, it is.
I would move to endorse it.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'm curious about the Greenfield Tree Committee request to the city. How much money are they looking for exactly? Do you know?
We're not making a request to the city.
Oh, you're not making.
This is an application to the Mass DCR
Oh, okay.
Urban Forestry Challenge Grant.
Based
We're
in
not
Belmont.
asking
Okay.
anything of the city.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Here you go.
Thank you for the less than 10 minutes.
The L there.
No.
Could your wife send it to me and then I can
Yeah.
send it back to you signed?
Yep. I'll take it.
Very nice. Thank you. Next item, oh, sorry.
I was just saying, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you for the tree committee.
Um,
Rescheduling November and December.
Potentially, yes. So hopefully this can be fairly quick. So our next meeting, as always, is on Thanksgiving. So we have to, I would assume, move it. I think in the past, well, it doesn't matter what we've done in the past. I know that in recent rescheduling inquiries, it seemed like other Thursdays were not available for everyone. So I don't know if we want to look either earlier in that week or potentially push out a week to,
What is the actual date we would have had?
sorry, it is November 23rd.
So we have, there'd be another Thursday,
There is,
That month.
30th.
which is unlikely to be a regularly scheduled thing for most of us.
True.
It's the
Oh,
5th.
I will be out of town on the 30th, but if that's the Thursday that works and we have a quorum without me, certainly fine.
And that, you're talking about November now or December?
November.
Okay.
Yeah, November 23rd,
So you,
Thanksgiving and Indigenous Day of Mourning.
you say this in a week later, George? 30th?
Yeah, one week later would be the 30th.
Yeah, Thursday.
That'd be okay for everybody but Hannah?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Well,
Yes.
They were. Jonah does.
he gave a thumbs up, yeah.
Oh, yep. Great.
Good.
Is that a quorum? It wasn't counted. All right, so it sounds like, so we will, do we have to vote? Okay. So November is gonna be moved to to Thursday, the 30th, still at 5:00. And then December is after the solstice and Christmas holidays. It is December 28th. I just thought we may as well talk very quickly to make sure that that date works for folks because it is the 25th is a Monday, so I don't know if people are traveling
Right.
for the holidays later that week. Okay. Other people that already know the 28th might not work?
Works for me now.
It's fine. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay. So
Donna, you're nodding? Yeah, Nancy?
Okay.
Are you gonna update the November calendar? And
Yes.
Send it out to us.
Yes, absolutely. And so December will stay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next thing is announcements.
Nancy's got her.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's- Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to announce that Greenfield is offering an event called on the October 30th, so it's coming right up. Community conversation about the proposed recycling changes, and it will be held October 30th, 6:30 PM at the Lava Center.
Thank you.
Please come if you're interested.
Hannah, do you want to say this thing that's coming up momentarily?
Sure, and apologies for not knowing about it in time to officially end the tonight, starting shortly at 6 o'clock, but going until 7:30 is the second public meeting with MassDOT about the Northern Tier Railroad proposal. So as much sort of critical mass of folks in the room to show ideally support. If you're not a rail person, I understand. But the northern tier, in addition to the east-west rail, which has long been proposed, would be a second opportunity for our region to have direct transit, especially to Boston, but also to cities in between, towns in between.
So not through Springfield.
Not through Springfield. This would run along Route 2. And I did, I think, include a link to register for the event / just jump on the Zoom with the agenda. And there is a little more info in there, and they'll go deeper into it about where proposed stations are. So as we talk about very often, you know, rail is certainly part of a really robust transit system. And from a business standpoint and livability standpoint for Greenfield, with my GBA hat on, rail would give us a great opportunity to attract people to live remotely, take cars off the road.
It is specifically recommended in the transportation
Yes.
chapter.
Yeah. And I think at the time, the northern tier is somewhat, I think, of a new conversation at this level. The east-west has been discussed for a long time, but there is momentum now behind the northern tier that was not there before. And the northern tier would, I don't know if it starts in Pittsfield, but it runs through Pittsfield, North Adams. I mean, it really connects us to some great cultural opportunities as well going west.
And I went to an earlier iteration of tonight's presentation this week or last week, I don't know, but it's actually very interesting. They have 3 alternative proposals where they show different electrified rail or non-electrified rail, and they do different options through Pittsfield, one that goes through like Shelburne Falls and Turners, one just through Greenfield. It's actually a very interesting, if you're a slightly nerdy, as I am, or wonky about rail, it's actually a really interesting, informative discussion, and they talk about the cost, which is both eye-watering and incredibly helpful to hear directly from Mass DOT. So highly encouraged.
Yeah.
They go through the Hoosick Tunnel.
I believe they do, but.
I bike
Yeah.
by the, to get.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nancy.
Yeah, this is, well, sort of an announcement, sort of a pitch maybe for the next meeting content. But as some of you, actually, I don't know if it showed up in today's newspaper or not, but Carol Collins and FERCog wrote a thing called the Municipal Net Zero Plan for the City of Greenfield. And it was just released. And I think it would be great if we invited someone to tell us about it.
Like Carol?
Yeah, I don't know if Carol will come, but
Allison Gage, yeah.
Gage was the person who worked with her. And I got an advance copy at Carol's party, which was great, by the way. Phil, thank you for coming up to us.
I wrote a speech. I didn't get to give it.
Yeah, it was a very nice event.
It was.
Carol was incredibly touched.
Oh.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
So although the name of this document is municipal, in the appendix, there's a couple of pages about community stuff. And because Greenfield the municipal side of Greenfield has been so successful in reducing its energy use, it is now eligible for funds from green communities to spend money on doing community outreach. So, so there's, I think, an incredible opportunity that we've not had before. And I feel like Greenfield has sort of been trying to do this on their own. And boy, wouldn't it be great to have a little more support, and be great to learn a little more about it.
Great.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
I move for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.